Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Dominican University Innovation Fair. Today, we are going to have the conference titled Impact and Importance of Language Proficiency Certification for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. And in this occasion, we are going to have Licenciada Linda Egnax, and now I'm going to give the opportunity to the coordinator, Alfredo Joel Otañez, to say a few words, welcome words.
Hello, everybody. Hello, good morning. Welcome to this conference. I'm really excited. I'm really thrilled to to give a welcome remarks, some welcome remarks to you guys on behalf of Universidad Tecnológica de Cibao Oriental UTECO. In this conference, as Stephanie said, called Impact and Importance of Language Proficiency Certification in Innovation and Entrepreneurship. This is part of the Dominican University Innovation Fair. It's called also Dominicana Innova. And the purpose of this fair, which consists of workshops, conferences, presentations, expositions, is to foster students, teachers, and everybody also in our college community to innovate, to think out of the box, to create ideas, to improve their lives through doing things differently. We know that you guys are in different majors, and no matter the major that you are in, you can innovate, you can create things, you can be creative, and you can do things in a different way so you can uh, accomplish different goals. So this conference is intended to help you understand the importance of having certifications. You know that having a certification is important. You guys, everybody has a certification. When you were born, you receive a certification, a birthday certification, a birthday certificate. And if you want to know how to drive and you learn how to drive, then you receive a certification, you receive a driver's license. And the same happens with language learning, not only English, all language learnings. There are different varieties, well, different levels, let's say. And now it's not only saying that you know the language, that you know, saying that you can speak the language, but how well do you speak? And what is your level of proficiency? What are the things that you can do with the level of proficiency that you have? And in order to demonstrate that, you need to get this certification. And there are many different institutions worldwide that offer certifications. And we have one here, which is really impactful, let's say, and have an impact, let's say, or certifies different languages, not only English, but more than 40 languages. And that is called the Global Seal by Literacy. And today we have the privilege, and we are honored to have the president of that institution here uh, from Illinois, the United States. And she's going to talk to us. She's going to explain to us the importance, the impact of having this certification, this document that guarantee that you guys have a great language proficiency, so you can be, let's say, productive, so you can innovate. Because, for example, you might say, okay, maybe it's only to get a job, but not only that. Imagine that you guys can create your own business and you can have, let's say, customers around the world. And if you have the competence of speaking good English, you can create a well-known mark. So you can be a well-known brand as Google or YouTube, or Facebook. Those people started from scratch. And if you have the opportunity, if you have the ability to communicate, to come across, your meaning, to convey your meaning in different ways, in a variety of ways, and you can show that your products have a really, or your service have a really good value, then you can succeed. So in order for you to improve your life and for you to create, to be innovative, you need knowledge, you need preparation. So this certification, this the process of getting this certification motivates you to go forward. I mean, to get, because it has different levels of proficiency. And Linda, who is the speaker in this time, she's going to explain to us all that process and how that document, that passport, let's say, of language or language proficiency can help you succeed in your, now that you're a student and later on when you finish your career. So we're happy to have you here all, and we hope you can take advantage of this great opportunity, and also to prepare yourself so you can get a certification. And one more thing is that our teachers, as I told you before, this morning at 11 o'clock, after we finish this conference, are going to receive the certification that they obtain after passing these some tough tests. And that was a 4-hour test with listening, speaking exercises, writing exercises, and they did pretty well. And today they will receive their certification, their international, or the official language proficiency certification, that they are fluent, very fluent in English. So people, I want you to be motivated today. I want you to be open to learn new things, and also to study hard and develop language proficiency from the get-go, from the very beginning, from now, right? I know you guys, right now you guys have a pre-intermediate level. Some of you have intermediate level, and I see that there are some people who have the intermediate, the advanced level, and you can continue learning. There are a lot of things to learn. So I hope you enjoy this conference. Have a great day. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for that really important messaging, that documenting and certifying your language skills really is important and really can make a difference. So I'm going to share a little bit with you about our program, which is called the Global Seal of Biliteracy, and that is because it is an international language certification. My contact information is here. I'll also share it on the last slide. If you have additional questions that I didn't answer in the presentation, or we may not have time for at the end. But if you do have a question, I believe there'll be some time at the end for you to share your question with your teachers, and we could potentially answer some of those questions. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and just get started with the, let's see, here we go. Make sure this can move. There we go. With the idea of a hashtag, too bilit to quit. In other words, you have too much biliteracy, you have language skills in 2 or more languages, and you won't quit. You will be able to go and do great things, but you'll also continue language learning. Once you have some language skills, you'll realize there's more words to learn, that there's new phrases, that slang. There'll be language that's used in England that's maybe different from the English that's used in the United States or Singapore or Australia. And language learning is an ongoing process, but it's also about a lifelong kind of journey. Language is dynamic. In other words, you don't just, language changes, new words show up in our, technology words and things. And so the idea of, thinking about language as being something that's ongoing is really important. So when you test for a seal of biliteracy or a language certification, the scores are going to tell you where you are in your journey. It's not a pass fail, it's just where you are right now. And you'll find that oftentimes maybe your listening skills are better than your speaking skills, or you're a better reader than you are writer. And that's absolutely normal. It gives you feedback, so you know kind of where to go. And so I kind of like a little bit of the idea of too bilit to quit is also representing some stamina and willingness to, to be, you can be okay when you have areas to improve, but also really celebrate your strengths. And so with that, I'll just share a little bit about my story. I'm here in Chicago, Illinois. And for about 40 years, I have taught language. I taught actually Spanish and a little bit of French in both the high school, secondary schools, as well as the university. And in that time, as a language teacher, you tend to your role is to help your students. Your role is to give your students time to practice the language in ways that are interesting to them. And at the end of a term, there's a test and a mark or a grade that you give them. And what I began to understand was the mark or the grade or even the course transcript wasn't really all that exciting or motivating. And so over 10 years ago, I read about a concept called the seal of biliteracy, which was not just a language, a grade or a mark on your transcript or a report card, but rather was a certificate of your level of skill that could be used for university credit. It could be used for job applications and more. And I began to employ that program here in my own classes, and it made a huge difference in student motivation. And I'm going to share a little bit about that. And so that journey for me began with working with other U.S. states that started a program. And I realized the program was working so well that students were improving their language because now they had something valuable to earn beyond just a mark in a course. And as a result, I was recognized. So in 2013, I was awarded something called the Golden Apple of Distinction, and it's for teachers. And I had the opportunity to choose a student to present that to me. And I chose a student who came from India, who as a 10-year-old did not speak any English and had to assimilate into an English language speaking school. And then in high school and secondary school became a part of my Spanish classes, the classes that I was teaching at that time. And he also excelled. And so if somebody, he was somebody who's now learned 2 more languages, and he is now a medical doctor, that because of his bilingualism, had the opportunity to pick from 7 different universities that he applied to for medical school. And what he told me about his interview for those courses in medical, for that application to be accepted into medical school, was they didn't ask him about his science coursework. They said, "Oh, you're multilingual." And that was the topic of the conversation. And he believes that that's why he was accepted into all of those programs, because adding language to another career skill set opens up multiple doors. As a result of that, and I'm continuing my work and opening doors, I also in 2014 was named the U.S. National Language Teacher of the Year. Not because I was such a great language teacher, but because I found a program that really advocated and served students. And that's opened further doors. And so one of the roles I play right now is as the president of the Joint National Committee on Languages. So our organization, it's a volunteer presidential role for 2 years, but our organization writes language legislation that's currently making its way through the U.S. Congress to, again, provide opportunities for students to learn English and at least one other language here in the U.S. And so that really kind of all affirms and is a pathway to the role I play now, which is as the executive director for the Global Seal of Biliteracy. And the final photo here is at the United Nations, where I had the opportunity to do a presentation last fall. Because language is universal and it empowers us. And so with that concept is just really then that question. So why certify language skills?
Oh,
Well,
sorry to interrupt, Linda. I
yeah.
think we only seen the first slide.
Okay, I am seeing the 3rd slide. So that was the 2nd slide, and it's showing on my screen as visible.
Okay.
Are you seeing it? Yes or no?
The third, no.
The 2nd one has image pictures?
Yeah, the second one.
And the
Can you see the
3rd
second one?
slide is the 3rd slide now. Do you see it?
Okay, I see it now.
Okay, so there's maybe a delay.
Yeah, there's a delay.
All right. Well, I apologize for technology.
Okay, no problem. No problem
All
at all.
right. Yeah. So the question of why certify your language skills. There are lots of different reasons to do that. But the most important reason is because it gives everyone an understanding of what you're able to do, and it will open doors. And that's because a language certification is more than a mark or a grade. A mark or a grade changes from school to school, and even a little bit teacher to teacher, or how you felt if you were sick on the day of a test. So a certificate is something that is recognized by others. So it's not just, oftentimes, employers don't care what courses you sat through in a class. They want to know, what were you able to do and what did you learn, and can you prove what you learned from that class or from those experiences. And so this is the definition from the dictionary of a certificate or a credential. It's an official document. It details a skill or a competence, something you're able to do, and it was issued by a third party. So sometimes, it's not, there's not what we call confirmation bias, where your teacher may only test you on the things that that teacher taught you, as opposed to the general bank of knowledge. And so that's important, because this credential or certificate is then measured by a general test. And for the Global Seal of Biliteracy, we use only tests that are accepted and used internationally. So these are not tests created by a single person or even in a single country. A certificate is a proof then of your skills that allow you to make you suitable for a particular job or task. And so this goes beyond just a grade or a mark at the end of a term. So following with that question, why certify language skills? From the employer's standpoint, skills should be verifiable. And so I have the emoji of sort of the Pinocchio, which was the the storytell character, the puppet who told lies. And every time he told a lie, his nose would get a little bit longer. Well, in the language space, most of the time when someone adds language or they're bilingual to a resume or a CV or even to a LinkedIn profile, that's what we call self-identified. In other words, they say, I can speak fill in the blank language, or I'm bilingual in these languages. But it's not verifiable, because that person just is sort of self-proclaiming that they have a level of skill, and maybe they're correct, but maybe they're not. But employers and companies, they want to know for sure. They want the skill to be verifiable, and more companies are even giving tests before they hire individuals or during the employment process or for their company. For example, maybe you've heard of someone who's become Google certified. They've taken a test to show that they have computer skills. So what I started finding out was that there is a lot of research out there about liars or exaggerators or people who sort of stretch the truth a little bit about their language skills. So in 2015, this survey by Career Builder, which does a lot of online hiring, they interviewed 2,000 of the managers who are in charge of hiring new employees. And they said that more than half were caught in a lie. Something they said on their resume or their CV or their application that wasn't true. Another study, more recent study, again with 2,000, said that the lie was most usually about their foreign language skills. And then the one we just had was by Babbel, and this was done by the Babbel sort of language learning company, online software. And they did this with LinkedIn in the United Kingdom, in England and Scotland and Ireland. And they interviewed over 1,000 individuals, British individuals, and they found that the number one thing they had lied about or stretched the truth or weren't completely honest about on their LinkedIn profile was their language skills. And interestingly, they said more men did that than women. So I don't know. I'm not going to make a comment about that part. And so what employers are saying is they want your skills to be verifiable. but they also want them to be visible. They want to be able to quickly see what it is you can do. In fact, 60% of employers in a National Association of College and Employers report said they want to see evidence of the skill. So evidence goes beyond a grade in a course. They want to actually know that you used it with an experience or that you have some kind of tested certification. Because employers want your skills to not just be visible, they want them to be comparable. They want to be able to look at 2 or 3 CVs or resumes and just select one because they can tell who is better and then the other. And so they want to be able to compare candidates. So as you look to using a certificate or adding a certificate for language or any other skill, it does increase your employability. And so, for example, the student you see here in the image is a student who graduated from a university in Ohio, here in the United States. She added to her science and medical skills, she added a certificate in French. And she actually did an internship with an NGO in Haiti, and then also did a French service provider program in New Orleans, where there's a lot of French Creole speakers. She's used her language alongside of chemistry and is now working in Florida in a company that develops medical equipment, and she does research in the different areas in Africa and other areas, French-speaking areas, where they're going to use those devices. And so we see a number of universities in the United States using language certification as a way to add extra support to their students in international business or health, especially nursing and pharmaceutical. Recently, we did a large number of students in veterinary science because people with pets speak different languages. I don't think the dogs speak or cats speak different languages, but their owners do, and they purchase products and they need services. And so when you add language, you add opportunity and new potential markets to the careers that you are working in. So a global seal can meet lots of criteria. It makes your language verifiable, it makes your language comparable, and it does open opportunities. So these are a couple of different students that received global seals of biliteracy from universities in the US. One from San Diego State University with international business. And then Anna, who is on the right, from the University of Oregon, received actually 2 different global seals, one in French and one in Portuguese. And she was able to take a pick of job offers because of her multilingualism, and that she was able to to verify that. So the best credentials from the employer's standpoint are visible and verifiable. They're comparable. But from the language learner, from the job applicant, from the university student, it's also important that a credential be shareable. How do you share this certificate with someone? How do you make it easy? If you have a piece of paper, do you have to take a picture? Can you upload it? What can you? They want, maybe you just even want to share and celebrate on social media. And so we know that credentials that are shareable are more useful. And most importantly, from the global seal standpoint, they're stackable. That means that you can continue to level up. It sort of becomes gamification of language learning. So you can celebrate that you're at this level now, but after maybe another year of study or perhaps a work experience, or you study abroad, then you get another level of certification, because language learning, as I said earlier, can be ongoing. The more you practice, not what you learn in the classroom, in the real world, the stronger your skills become. So it's really important to exercise just as you would physically. You could learn how to do a new exercise or to play a new sport, but unless you get out and do it, you'll never really improve your skills. And so we believe that a certificate that's stackable, that can represent ongoing learning, and and reflect where you are now, not where you were when you began your language journey, is a good thing. So the Global Seal has 3 stackable levels. So our first level we refer to as functional fluency. We use the word fluency because test scores are not usually understood by employers. They don't know what that test is, what that number means on the score. They don't know what you learned or what it represents. But if you tell an employer that you're bilingual, that you speak English and French or Portuguese, then they might say, well, are you fluent? And, if you have fluencia, if you're good, how good are you at that level of language? And as a result, we chose to use that word fluent or fluency for our certificate, but to give it some levels. So someone who is functionally fluent is likely what I understand your skill to be, in the intermediate level. And that level of language is someone who actually can use English or another language on the job. But you can't use it to do lots of hard things, but you can do regular activities. You could help someone fill out a form. You could do a presentation. You could sell a product. So you could, work in a store. You could work in a bank, because people do the same things over and over again with numbers, and they use the same words. And that is functional fluency. In other words, you can get by and you can survive using those language skills. You have enough. It won't be pretty. You might make lots of mistakes, but your pronunciation could use improvement, but you can communicate and be understood. And that's really helpful. And sometimes that's all an employer needs. Our next level is working fluency. Working fluency means that you have a lot of language skills, and you can solve problems. You can ask someone what happened. You can, in other words, provide a past narrative. You can do some hypothesis of what might happen next. So you have a larger vocabulary, and you can do more skills with that vocabulary. So your letter writing and things like that is going to be much, much higher. You're going to be able to communicate effectively in a meeting, for example, when there's problems that are introduced. And so working fluency is more at that lower, what we refer to as advanced level. And that is where in the United States, that's where our language teachers for foreign language courses, that's the level they have to demonstrate. So this is a job level at working fluency. And then we have our third level, which we call professional fluency. So this is someone who's potentially doing contract work, or their language needs to be much more precise and specific to a career field. And so we do all 3 of these stackable levels, and each one has a unique serial number. And I'll just talk about that a little bit more in a minute. And is available on 2 different language scales. Now, a scale is like a standard of what language looks like at different levels. And we offer 2 different levels. The ACTFL level is the level that's usually used in the United States. And the CEFR level is one that comes from Europe. It stands for the Common European Framework of Reference. And that's used in Europe and other international locations to determine a level of language skill. We certify over 120 different languages. We have, I believe, 48 different qualifying tests. Some of those tests are only one language. Some of those tests cover 45 languages or even more. And our certification by design is free. We don't cover the cost of the test that you choose or your school selects for you, but our certification is free because we believe that access to having a way to prove your level of language skills will open doors for you. And especially in areas where that is an empowerment, maybe there's not as much money to pay for an expensive certificate. So if you can prove your skills, we will certify them. And we've done that now in all over the world. In fact, right now, I believe we're at 45 different countries. Although now in May is our busy season, and I believe I was told that by the end of next week or the week after, we'll be over 55 countries. So we continue to grow. In 2023, you can see the top countries where we certified the US, Colombia, United Arab Emirates or UAE, Costa Rica, and in the United Kingdom, where we do a lot of work in for those speakers of English that are learning other languages. And so you're truly looking at a certificate that has a global reach. Let's see here. So what does a global seal actually certify? What does that certificate measure? So the first thing it measures is what we refer to as the first language of certification. For some people, that's the first language that they spoke at home. But generally speaking, the language in which we identify as you are most comfortable speaking and listening, but also reading and writing. So there's not just bilingual, it's biliteracy. So we're referring to literacy as the concept of being able to read and write. So our test measures all 4 of those skills. And for most people, the language in which they are most comfortable is the language of their primary and secondary education. Oftentimes people will study at a university in another country, but that second language may never be their strongest or most comfortable language. So for many of you, likely, as someone who is living in the Dominican, you're probably looking at maybe Spanish being your first language of certification. So it's the language that you're best at. The second language is a language that maybe you have learned. Maybe you've learned it through travel. Maybe you've learned it through school. Maybe you've learned it on the street or through work or on Duolingo or something else. So the second language of certification is the one that we test. So for many of you, that sounds like that will be English. And we put those 2 together and we provide you that language certificate, which is going to identify what is the first language of certification, what was that tested second language of certification, and what level and what scale was used. It will also, and the other piece of that certificate that it's also going to be able to do is to have an embossed seal that's going to say which of those levels as well. So you're going to have lots of information. And again, we do that in lots of different languages. So typically when someone gets excited about having a language certificate, the next emotion is fear. Like, uh-oh, will I be able to pass this test? Will I be able to do it? And so one of the tools that we provide on our globalseal.com website is a self-assessment. It uses what we refer to as can-do statements. Now, can-do statements are the things that you're able to do as language functions, like I can write a letter, I can understand a time, I could watch a movie and understand most of what's happening or all of what's happening. So those can-do statements are designed to fit those ACTFL or CEFR language levels. And so we've used those statements to create a free self-assessment using emojis. There's 6 little mini tests, and you can say, well, you know, I can't do it, not yet. I can do it, but with help, or I can do it really well. And it is adaptive. In other words, as you're answering questions, I can do it really well, it begins to jump higher and higher. And at the end of this about 5-minute exercise in each skill area, so there's one for listening, one for speaking, one for writing. After you answer these questions, which are given in English, then it will give you a score, and it'll say you're likely in listening at the intermediate high level, or your reading is at advanced low, and you'll get an idea if you're ready to test, or at least it'll give you an idea about the things that are being tested on this test that you take. So is it worth it? Well, this is a student from the University of Oregon, and he said after he got his global seal of biliteracy, he just said, finally a test that means something, because he actually got something he can use for his career out of the course. So hopefully most students feel like they're getting other things out of a course as well. But this was a great comment about the value of taking the risk to do a test and then get certified. So here is what the Global Seal of Biliteracy certificate looks like. So I've circled the parts that I've described earlier. So this one is at working fluency, but remember there's also functional fluency or professional fluency. This certificate was awarded on the CEFR scale at the B2 level. If that was on the ACTFL scale, it would say ACTFL and it would say advanced low. It will give your name and the year that you've earned your certificate. It will also state your school's name, your university's name, and your state or country. State, we use state for the US recipients. And then the very most important part of it is a serial number. That's going to make your certificate digitally shareable. And so the image here is actually of some teachers at a university in Poland who are learning to be certified to teach English. And so they had to have a very high level at the working fluency level to be able to do that. So that serial number means that you can make your language level of skill verifiable and comparable and visible, because it's now shareable on LinkedIn. So you take the serial number and it will not be self-identified. Rather, it goes under licenses and certifications. So it's a legitimate license or certification that an employer will easily be able to identify and find. It will have your serial number there. It will also say when the certificate was issued and the languages in which you earned your certificate and at what level. And so it takes about 1 or 2 minutes to add that to your certificate. And now your skills are easily used and seen when you apply for a position if you use the LinkedIn profile. You can also, of course, add it to a CV or a resume in the same way by using the serial number and your level. We also have a free digital tool we refer to as our digital language profile. So this profile allows you to upload your, a profile picture. You can add some information about yourself. What you choose to add is completely up to you. But it will show an image of your certificate, and then there is a paragraph of description. And that paragraph of description is going to tell an employer what you're able to do at that level. So this person could give a presentation about a product. This person could, provide customer service. This person could do an interview. So there's all different kinds of job tasks that are in those paragraph descriptions that will help an employer know, okay, so you have that, but what does that mean? They can read the paragraph and now it's easily said. It also has an additional sort of text box where you can add others of information. You could list your courses. You could list experiences that relate to language. You could tell your language story, perhaps about a study abroad, maybe a volunteer project, maybe you worked with an NGO, maybe you were that entrepreneur and here's how you used English to create a job market or to create a product. And so it's up to you how you want to highlight yourself, but this becomes something you can share easily on social media or share it with an individual just by sending it to their email. And so this is another tool. This is completely free that comes with your certificate. And so our goal from the Global Seal perspective is, okay, so we've given you a license or a certificate. We give you the opportunity to level up. That's really important to us. We want it to be stackable for you to continue. As you get more experience in the workplace, you come back and take another test. You can take a test later as an individual, not necessarily with a university. Then we want you to leverage it. We gave you the serial number and other ways to share your certificate. And then we want to link to opportunities. So sometimes for our secondary students, one of our opportunities are education university pathways. So for example, we work with over, a couple of hundred different universities around the world. And so we talk to those universities about providing credit and advanced placement for students with a global seal of biliteracy. So for example, the University of Texas, so not too far away from you, they provide 14 hours of university credit for a global seal of biliteracy just at the first functional fluency level. So students can add a language minor to their university career in just 1 year. So we work with lots of universities to help create a pathway so that students are recognized and benefit from having their language certified. These are some other reasons that students have said that that's important. What makes a global seal valuable? One student said, and this is an individual who's Peruano, he's from Peru. He is teaching now at a university. He's teaching Spanish, but he's continuing to work, and he's certified in English at the professional fluency level. But he said, it proves that I've achieved my goal, and it makes me proud. Another student used the Global Seal of Biliteracy to get an internship to show that that person was able to handle the tasks in that second language. And this individual here, who's in Costa Rica, he's actually earning more money because now he has a manager position because that required communication outside of the company in English. And so the question that I would have for you to start to think about is, okay, I have language skills. I'm going to certify them. And then what are the ways that you might use those? So I've listed just a few of the ways that our students who receive a Global Seal of Biliteracy have used them. And so some of them I've already talked about, but kind of think about, wow, what would I do? What might be the opportunities I have? Maybe it is a beca, scholarship, or you added that to your job application. So that solicitude is going to be amplified because now you have language skills. And I want to close by just coming back to the concept of to bilit to quit. The little girl here you see is 10 years old, and she lost her arms in a serious accident, and we actually became her foster parents. She's from Guatemala. And so she lived with us and got prosthetic arms, which she has since about the age of 16 discarded as cumbersome and chooses to not use them at all. So no prosthetics anymore. But she was someone who I believe was going to share that idea of to bilit to quit, because she came to the United States as a 10-year-old and then began to learn English. And she has stamina. She is a fighter. You can't tell her no. If you say, she will figure out how to do it. So she wanted to do track and field. She liked running. She liked sports. So she played soccer, but just had to have someone, throw in for her because she couldn't, but she didn't get called for handballing ever. But here she is running in long distance relays, and she had to pass the baton and hold the baton between the stubs of her elbows to complete the race. She worked hard at that. But the thing she worked hardest at was acquiring her English skills. And as an adult, she has begun to work in the Indianapolis, Indiana school district as an aide to provide help and support on a one-on-one basis with other immigrant students who are now forced to do as she was, to learn English quickly to be able to survive in an English-speaking school setting. And so she believed that in spite of everything that she had to overcome as a disability without hands, that the stronger disability was someone who was without a second language. For her, that became her disability that she wanted to overcome. And now as a mother, because she is now a mother of these two teenage students, my grandkids, they have been in a bilingual school their whole lives because she believed it was really important that they also be to bilit to quit. And so Jasmine, the older, also speaks French as well as Spanish and English. And so they're using their language skills for their next opportunities. And Jasmine's been accepted at a university in Spain because she had a certificate. Both of my grandchildren now have global seals of biliteracy. And so I want to close with just that concept of what is it that you'll be able to do with your language skills, and how will you stay to by lit to quit. And so with that, if there's any questions or discussions, I think we'll open it up to your teachers to support you with that.
Hello, I'm back. I had a situation with electricity.
All right, whenever you're ready.
Okay. Just 1 second. Okay, we're back.
Any questions?
Okay, let me allow them to ask some questions. Let's see. Okay. I'm giving them the option to talk because they were not permitted to talk. Okay, guys, you can now, if you have a question, you can use your microphone. You guys are allowed to do so. Okay, you guys are all allowed to talk. So let's see. Do you have any questions?
Hello.
Hello, Radeli?
Marcos here has a question.
Marco has a question. Okay, Marcos, go ahead.
I saw three different certificates. My question is explain the difference. Please.
The
Okay.
difference between what?
The three different certificates. The
Okay.
working fluency, functional, and professional.
So this test, depending upon your test scores, you would earn the one of those three levels of certification. So the functional fluency would be someone who you can handle some tasks, you have some basic knowledge, you are able to, for example, you could ask or answer simple questions. You could tell a basic story, a narrative, like this happened and then this happened and then I'm going to do this next, something like that. But you're not able to, everything that you do is at the sort of expected level, the things that you've kind of practiced. If something happens that you've never used that language before, or you would get kind of nervous and you would sort of break down. Typically at the functional fluency level, people who are not used to listening to someone speak that language as a second language speaker may have a harder time understanding you. You may not be able to understand another speaker of English, for example, if they speak very, very fast or they use words you haven't heard before. So there would be some struggles, but you would be able to do basic tasks, especially tasks that you have practiced or that's sort of routine or everyday. You know, you'd be able to order in a restaurant. You'd probably be able to buy something at the store without any difficulty at all. The working fluency, which would be the next level of certificate, is a much higher level of skill. You're able to do things in past tense, future tense, hypotheticals. You're able to write for an extended period. So in other words, you could write an essay easily in the language, you know, 1 or 2 or 3 page essay. Whereas that functional fluency, you're more like maybe 1 or 2 or 3 paragraphs. So you're not able to write as long. Your language vocabulary is more in-depth. So rather than just using the commonplace sort of everyday words, you have more academic language, or you have a wider variety of vocabulary that you're able to use. And at that advanced level, you're also able to do unexpected situations. So even if you don't know the word, you're able to describe and what we refer to as circumlocute. You could still manage to sort of get through the situation, even if it's not something you've practiced before. So you're a little more agility. You have a, you know, you kind of have some more I guess problem solving skills in the language. And then finally, at that higher professional fluency level, you're almost, you could do everything that a native speaker of that language probably can do, but you know, you may still have an accent. That's not a problem at all. But you have a very, very in-depth vocabulary, and it's much more precise. The accuracy of the grammar is much better. So you're not making really mistakes anymore. Even at the working fluency level, individuals will make mistakes, but they're not mistakes that will impede or cause a problem with understanding by the other person. So that's really, and those 3 levels. And we see probably about 75% of our certificate recipients are at the functional fluency level. Then there's probably about 20% at working fluency, and then maybe only about 5% at professional fluency. That's a very high level of language skill tip. So aim for functional fluency, and then work on practicing and using the language in real settings, you know, as often as you can, and you will get to working fluency. What you will also find is that one of your skill levels will, 1 or 2 will be much higher, and sometimes even 2 sub-levels higher. So it's really common that someone maybe will have listening and reading skills that are at working fluency level, but maybe their reading or their writing and their speaking is still at the intermediate or at that functional fluency level. And that's really normal, because we have strengths and weaknesses, but it's always easier to understand than to produce it on our own. So that kind of gives you an idea, you know, you can celebrate that your skills are higher, and you can say, well, I'm halfway to the next level.
Great. I think that you guys are clear with the answers. Good. So you guys have to focus on getting first the functional fluency, so then you can go up, you level up. Okay, that's the idea.
Yeah.
So right now your goal to be the functional to get started. Good. Eugenio, I saw you raised your hand a few minutes ago. I don't know if your answer was clarified already. I mean, your question was answered already, or your doubt was clarified. No more questions, people?
All right. Thank you so much for getting to share with you.
Great step. So let's conclude. Stephanie, your microphone is mute. Okay, perfect.
Now it is on. So thank you very much for participating in this very interesting, super interesting conference. Thank you to Ms. Linda Ignatz for sharing all that experience with all of us.
Thank you.
It was an honor.
Igualmente.
Yeah, as you can see, she can speak Spanish very well, people.
I can see.
So it was an honor again, Linda, for
Thank
sharing this
you.
time, taking this time apart just to come. I mean, to be here with us visually, and because we know you have a pretty busy agenda. And thank you so much. We're gonna give the certificates to the teachers later,
Yay.
and we're going to send you some pictures so
Yay!
we can celebrate
I love
together.
that.
Yeah, and also we have a certification for you. We have for being one of the speakers of this fair. So I'm gonna send it to you in a few
Thank
minutes.
you.
So thank
Thank
you very much for being here. And guys, thank you for your attendance. I know that it might be a little bit challenging for you to be listening to native speakers. You're accustomed to listening to us, and probably our pronunciation, our accent is kind of easier to get by. But you have to confront this reality. You're not going to talk only to Dominican people, but people from different countries, not only American, but people from different countries with a variety of accents. So you guys are on the good path. Keep up the good work. Keep working hard, and follow up all the counsels, all the suggestions that your teachers give you, and you guys going to achieve a higher level. We're pretty sure about that. And more importantly, you can get a lot of opportunities. There are an open doors of opportunities for you over there. Okay, so thank you very much, everybody, and have a great day. Bye,
you.
Lina.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Steph.
Bye.